First of all, let me just say this before we jump into this video. If you listen if you grasp just a little bit of this video, it'll change your life. It'll be a game changer for you. There's a reason I'm saying that. But before we get into that, I want to welcome you back to another weekly pro tip breakdown. I do this once a week. And if you're on my mailing list, you know that I send out weekly pro tips every Monday. And we have over 40 of them. But since been getting such great feedback about those pro tips, I thought I would do a video once a week that breaks down one of the pro tips. So we're breaking down pro tip number 10 today. And if you would like to familiarize yourself with pro tip 10, some of those pro tips, they're not all on my website. I'm populating them slowly. But if you go to my website, which is called JamalJavanji.com, that's my website, JamalJavanji.com. And you'll see a link there. It says blog. On that blog page is the pro tips that I've populated there so far. And pro tip 10, which is we're going to talk about that today, is on that blog. So you can read, if you want to read the pro tip, you'll be able to do that. And then this will make a lot more sense to you. If you're not on my mailing list, let me encourage you, go to JamalJavanji.com. On the homepage there. If you just scroll to the bottom, you'll see a place where you can put your email address in there and click submit, and you'll get on my mailing list. You'll have to confirm it. It'll send you an email and you'll confirm it and you'll get on my mailing list. So let me invite you to do that. It's really important. There are things I share there. It'll keep you up to date on my weekly pro tips so you don't miss those. And you also will be in the know when it comes to things I don't share publicly. So let me encourage you to get on that mailing list if you'd like. So I want to talk about this fantastic pro tip. I'm just mesmerized and fascinated with this concept I want to communicate here. But pro tip number 10 is this. You cannot solve problems. You can only discover solutions. Let me repeat that because it's so important. Pro tip 10 is this. You cannot solve problems. You can only discover solutions. Now this has saved my life. This has been the crux of me discovering any kind of breakthrough, both in my life and also I'm a personal life coach as I help people discover truth in their lives. This is a active ingredient in all of this. You cannot solve problems. You can only discover solutions. So what am I talking about here? Well, first of all, what is a problem? That's an interesting question, right? A problem many times, I have a friend that always says there are no problems in life. And I know you may be listening to this and you're going, well, you don't know about my life. I got a lot of problems, right? But my friend says there are no problems in life. There are actually just situations, right? They're just situations. If you were a journalist, the idea of being a journalist is that a journalist can look at a situation and describe it. Who, what, where, when, why, how, that kind of thing. They can write a story about what's happening. It's simply an observation without judgment, without bias. I mean, that's the idea, right? It rarely happens, but without judgment, without bias, without an agenda. The idea of a journalist is that you can just simply look at a situation and describe it. Now, when we look at life, we can see situations or we can see problems. So a problem, largely, is a judgment, it's a story, it's a perception at some level of lack. That's literally, if you look at a situation and you inject a perception of lack into that situation, it now becomes a problem. That is literally what a problem is. So, we all look at the world, we all look at our life, we all look at the situations through a lens, right? It's kind of like having a set of glasses on. You don't always see the glasses you're wearing. Why don't we see the glasses we're wearing? Because they're on your head, right? You're looking at life through the lens. We all have a lens, so to speak. That lens is really our psychological structure that's developed. There's a lot that goes into that. Most of it is memory, there's a karmic layering, without getting into all of that develops our lens through which we see the world through. And when we look at life through that lens that has been colored by lack or perceptions of lack, lots of things feel impossible, insurmountable. They feel like problems, okay? And the more you look at a problem, typically, and I just want you to think about your own life, your own situations. When you see a perception of lack, maybe it's a lack of money, maybe it's a lack of love or relationship issue, maybe it's a lack of opportunity, lack of resources, a lack of something. You feel like you lack something. The more you look at that situation and your mind kind of obsesses over it and focuses on it and kind of goes in loops, it gets worse. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that? Yeah, it typically gets worse. There's a reason for that. There is a reason that it gets worse. There's a couple of reasons, actually. I want to tell you about them today. First reason is, number one, because what you look at, right, what your focus is, if you're focused on a certain dimension, right, of lack or perception, that energy that you're focusing on is what you're actually fueling in many ways. Right? Everything needs fuel to continue. You know, your body needs fuel, so it breaks down food and it will give it energy. A fire, if you have a fireplace, all right, you have to put wood in the fireplace, it needs fuel, or it's a gas fireplace, it needs that fuel to keep the fire going. In order for something to continue, you have to give it fuel. Well, whatever you put your focus on, you're actually fueling. I don't know if most people don't even think about this, right? They're not aware of this. But where you put your focus, you're actually fueling. So I always say, choose where you want your focus. If you have a lot of quote unquote problems, the more you focus on the problems, the worse they get. It doesn't change other people, it doesn't change the situation just by hyper focusing on your perception of lack, what a person may have done to you that is hurtful. The more you focus on it, the worse it gets. You're feeling that. So where focus goes, energy flows, right? That's $1 million statement, by the way. Literally, it's worth more than $1 million if you understand it. Where focus goes, energy flows. This could be the difference between abundance and poverty in every way for you if you understand this. Where focus goes, energy flows. That's one reason why focusing on problems never solves the problem. Number two, though, second reason why focusing on problems never produces solutions is because, and this is the main point here, this is the active ingredient. Don't miss this. I want you to hear this. Problems exist, if you, quote unquote, perceptions of problems only exist on a certain frequency. Now, I don't want you to get weirded out about the word frequency, but what is a frequency? It's a certain wavelength. It's an energetic principle, right? So, you know, there are waves of energy that are constantly moving through space, right? There are these waves, and these waves of energy, without getting into all the technical details, they operate or oscillate on a certain, oscillation is there's movement. Energy is always moving. So energy is moving on a certain frequency, right? So problems exist, or perceptions of problems. When I say problems, it's the perception of lack in some area. They exist on a certain frequency. It's like a radio station, right? Radio station dial. And problems or perceptions of lack or problems exist on a certain frequency. Now, think about it, just practically. When you're driving in your car, and I know a lot of people, because of technology with, you know, cell phone technology and internet and everything, those people are streaming what they're listening to. But back in the day, right, when everyone, I don't know, if maybe you listen to the radio. If you are listening to this video and you still listen to the radio, the old school radio, then put it in the comment section. Maybe put in the comment section that, hey, I still listen to the radio. A lot of people I know don't. I rarely listen to the radio anymore. That's a side issue. But if you think about radio, like when you're listening to the radio and you tune it to a certain station, all right, let's say 97.1, there's a certain radio station on. If you're listening to 97.1 on the radio dial, whatever's being broadcast at 99 or 100 or 105, whatever it is, on FM dial or whatever, you're not going to hear any of that. What's interesting about radio waves, if you could see the radio waves in the room, they're all together. Like in this room where I'm speaking right now, there are waves, there are all kind of frequencies. There are certain energies that are operating at certain frequencies, they're all here. Even radio, speaking of radio waves, 97.1 is in this room, 97.2, 97.3, 98, 99, 100, all of them, they're here. But if you have a receiver, which is a radio, and you tune into 97.1, you are only going to hear what is being broadcast on that frequency. You're not going to hear anything else on a different frequency, right? So problems all have a certain frequency, right? And when you're tuned to the frequency of problems or lack, all you will pick up on, there's an energetic wavelength of this perception. Every thought has a certain frequency to it. You're only going to pick up on those similar kinds of thoughts, and there's many out there in the ether, in the atmosphere. I know this sounds a little woo-woo for some folks, but there are lots of thoughts with energetic forms that exist on a certain plane, and the more you focus on problems or lack, the more you will literally pick up on that frequency of lack and problems. So this is why I tell people, and I'm a life coach by profession, and when I'm talking to somebody and they're just focused on what they don't have, and they're focused on lack, and they're focused on all the things that are going wrong and how nothing ever works out for them, and I totally get that, by the way. I've lived many years of my life stuck in those kinds of mindsets. My number one goal as a coach in that situation, whether I'm working with a company, whether I'm working with a group or an individual, is we have to shift the station. We have to change the station. Because as long as you're on that station, you could hyper obsess and you could try to fix and come up with solutions. You will not get a solution by focusing on the problem. It's like you will not hear what's on 100 FM if you're tuned to 97.1. We have to change the station. Now most people don't think about this, because when you're in fight or flight mode or in lack mode, you're trying to fix the problem. You cannot fix a problem. There are no solutions. You can't fix a problem. You can only discover solutions. So you have to change the station, right? That's what we do. We change the station. How do you change the station, you might ask? Number one way to change a station is simply to get into a different internal state of mind. And when you calm down and your nervous system begins to calm, when you go out of fight or flight, which keeps you on the station of lack or perceptions of lack, when you turn the fight or flight mechanism or the nervous system off and you get into a rest and digest nervous system, a calm state of being, what you don't understand, what most people don't understand, is the antenna, that, so to speak, goes up, and you're able to access higher frequencies in which solutions can be found. I'll give you a quick example of this. I had a car one time, right? I really loved the car. It was an older car, but it kept breaking down. And it broke down once, I fixed it, broke down twice, I fixed it, broke down a third time, and I fixed it. All right, before I actually got it fixed the third time, I sat and it really bothered me. I felt like, why does this car keep breaking down? And I've learned to pay attention and ask questions. So I took a moment, and I was kind of agitated when it broke down. I was sitting on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck, and I did a little meditation, got myself into a calm state. And as soon as I got myself into a calm state, I literally heard or perceived a frequency, right? Because I was so focused on, why is my car breaking down? How do I fix it? And what's going on? As soon as I got into a calmer state, this thought literally popped into my mind. I tuned into a higher frequency, and the thought was, have you ever thought about getting a new car? And the answer was no, because I was so focused on what's wrong with my car and also on the money I perceived I didn't have, that I could never even think about what a solution might be, like getting a new car, because I was so focused on, I don't have the money, I'm lacking. But this dialogue kind of ensued, was like, forget the money for a moment. If you were to get a new car, what would you get? And I started to think about it, and this specific car company came to mind, and I got excited about it, and I thought, maybe that's why the car is breaking down, so I can think about this. So I became very clear about the new car that I wanted. I didn't think about the money I didn't have. I just thought, hey, that's on the agenda. That's the next step. I'm going to get this car whenever the time is right. A few months go by. I'm taking a walk, and I'm in a very peaceful state. I'm in nature, literally, this dialogue. It's almost like I'm tuned into another frequency. And I heard this voice that said, hey, why haven't you gotten the new car yet? And I started thinking, I was like, well, it's not the right time. I haven't had the money. And they said, well, why don't you invest, right? Because investment's all about moving energy in a certain direction. It's not about gaining. It's like, why don't you invest in the company? So I decided that I would. I bought their stock. Lo and behold, the stock blew up, and I ended up making more money in a couple of weeks than what I paid for the car. That's an example of getting on a higher frequency and elevating, right? Elevating your frequency. So the quote unquote problem that I was having, why is the car breaking down, not enough resources, as soon as I could stop focusing on that, just get into a calm state of being, it's almost like this strategy and this idea came to invest, which I never would have thought about that, because that was on a completely different station, and I didn't invest to make money. Had no idea the stock was going to blow up. I just wanted to invest because who I am is I'm really all about putting energy or focus into the things that I really feel strongly about, and this company is doing things in the world that I really like, so I decided I would invest in them, not knowing the stock was going to expand, and it did. And then sure enough, it ended up bringing in more money than I paid for my old car. That's just an example, right? You can never discover a problem. You cannot solve problems. You can only discover solutions. And that's such an important point. So we'll leave it there today. I hope this has been helpful. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video. Share it with somebody who needs it. Don't just keep it to yourself. If you are not yet subscribed to my channel on YouTube, please do that. If you're watching this on other social media channels, please like this and put it in the comment what you got out of this video. Share it with somebody. Let's not keep this to ourselves, but hopefully this has been helpful for you. And if you haven't gotten my mailing list, please go to my website, jamaljavanji.com. I'd love for you to get on that mailing list. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage, put your email address in there, and you'll get on my mailing list. Until next time, guys, take care.